If I could get everybody's attention here, and I'll be out of the way here and handing it over to the main event as quickly as possible. Welcome to everyone who is attending this evening. This evening's meeting is being cablecast live on YouTube and is available there for anyone to view. Tonight's meeting is not a town board meeting per se, but a meeting of the people of White Bear Township. Town board, sitting back there and up here, members are present, as well as staff and town consultants as resources for discussion this evening. The main part of the presentation is the proposed preliminary tax levy for 2026. When it comes to a vote, only township residents have the privilege of voting this evening. Since this meeting is not a town board meeting, it will be run by a moderator. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a volunteer to be our moderator. Bob Kermes, township resident, former supervisor, Board of Supervisors, has volunteered. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept Bob Kermes as our moderator this evening. There's a first. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right. At this point, I will turn it over to Bob. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah.
Okay. We have an agenda. Hopefully everybody has signed in at the door, so we know who's here. And if you didn't get an agenda, they do have a pile of them over there on the table. So that we conduct the meeting and keep things in fairly good order, we'll follow a modified Robert's Rules of Order process. If you have any, during the proceedings, if you have any comments or questions, please identify yourself with your name and your address. And then we'll be taking minutes. Of course, the town clerk is responsible for that, so he's arranged to have minutes made for the meeting. Okay, so unless there's any questions about those issues, the next item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from last year's annual meeting. There's a copy in the packet. It was also posted on the township's website, so it's been available for some time to read. Hopefully we don't have to go through it right now, so if I can have a motion to approve those minutes, please. So, okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to approve those minutes? There's a second. Okay. Those in favor of approving the annual meeting minutes for 2024, yeah, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I got that mixed up. Okay, the next item. Yeah, we do have to approve this agenda, so I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second? Second. Those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Thank you. That motion passes. Okay, we do have some distinguished visitors tonight from the state legislature and from the county attorney's office. Senator Heather Gustafson is with us. If you'd like to make a few comments.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Gustafson. I live in Vadnais Heights, so don't hold that against me, but I represent this area. So White Bear Township is something I often talk about at the Capitol because it is so unique. In fact, I had at least 2 meetings today that had to do with White Bear Township. One was we are reintroducing a bill on $300 million for public safety. And last time, since it was my bill, all of the public safety funds were allocated to every city, county, and tribal nation in Minnesota. And then I added, and every township of population of 10,000 or more, which is only one, but it's mine. So we made sure we got it.
Thank you.
And I remember the phone call that I got on the floor where I believe one of the, and I won't say who, but one of the members sitting here at the table was yelling, why did we had some dollars that were also allotted for your transportation and your roads and that infrastructure? And I remember that we were looking at a dollar amount around 7 million. And then the public safety went forward, and I sent that out to all of my cities. And I said, hey, look, this just passed. You've got money here allotted for public safety. And he, one of them, replied back, what happened to the 7 million? This is politics. Now we only have 450,000. This is crazy. And I was like, no, this is in addition to the $7 million for your roads. And so it was a moment of like, oh, thank you. But no, those were different times. We're going to be introducing that language again. We'll see where it goes. But I just want you to know that you are always sort of top of mind, because I know that you have a unique township situation, and that most townships are, oh man, less than 5,000. And even that is probably only a couple. And so when I talk about my township, I always have to tell the story of my township, and therefore people get very tired of me talking about White Bear Township. But it is, in my view, are all of the loveliness of a township and the unique democratic process that we have here and that we enjoy here. But also you have a lot of the trappings of a city in a second-tier suburb where you are facing a lot more wear and tear to your roads. You have housing issues. You have all of the things that White Bear Lake and Vadnais Heights and Gem Lake and Circle Pines and Centerville have as well. But you have different resources and different ways of organizing those funds. So I understand that, and just know that you are something I talk about regularly, because I want to make sure that you're being represented and supported in however best we can do that. So it looks like you have a big list in front of you tonight, a lot of big decisions, a lot of things that you need to look at from previous years and going forward. And I know that weighs heavy on you. Anybody who makes budgets, that weighs heavy. And it's a lot of decisions, and some of those decisions are really hard. And they don't get easier. And as you all sit here today, I just think that this is a wonderful example of when people get together to decide how that money should be spent and where it should go. And I just want to say thank you again for letting me represent you at the Senate. Thank you for welcoming me here tonight. And my office and my email, always open. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. We're in session now. It's crazy. But after it's over, we have lots of time. And if anybody here would love to grab a cup of coffee or, just meet at the park and kind of tell me what's going on and things that I could do maybe to help you and your family in any way, I would like to do that. So I'm easy to find. And I hope you do reach out if you need anything. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. I have to back up a little bit. I have one more housekeeping item here. I mentioned Robert's Rules of Order. We do have a parliamentarian in the House, and that's the town attorney, Chad Lemons. So if any technical issues come up with Robert's Rules of Order, he's going to have to answer them. Okay, we also have our county commissioner here, and Terry Jabins Singh. I hope I didn't destroy that too much.
Thank you. Hello, so my name is Tara Jebin Singh, and I am the Ramsey County Commissioner for District 1. So that is Arden Hills, Mounds View, Vadnais Heights, Shoreview, Gem Lake, North Oaks, White Bear Township, and a little bit of Blaine and Spring Lake Park. I always start left to right. I will say I have a soft spot for White Bear Township for a couple of reasons. One is that a couple of jobs ago, I worked for White Bear Lake area schools, and so did a lot of work in this area. And the second reason is because my colleague, Kelly Miller, who represents District 7, our districts overlap like this. And because of the unique territory of the township, it means that she and I get to collaborate even more in this Northeast Metro, which is always a good thing. I just want to say thank you. I'm very new into this role. And one of the things that I'm finding more and more is really key to having worked with several of the folks in the different levels of government is to see how the folks at the township level, at the school districts, at the county, the state level, and even our federal government are in communication, knowing that collectively we all have our little piece of the puzzle that serves the community. So I appreciate being invited to this kind of a format so that we can continue those conversations. One of the things I just wanted to say is that I have a little bit of experience with some of the folks at the township also for my last job, which was at Northeast Youth and Family Services. And the reason why I bring that up is I come from a health and human services background, working with older adults and new arrivals, folks with disabilities, and those living with mental health issues. And during this time, there's been a lot of uncertainty about some of the funding that supports some of our most vulnerable friends and family and neighbors. And so this is something I've been really working on. It's the advocacy that I bring to the county. We have our own systems to make sure we're doing better at serving community, and then advocating across the different lines of government. So all I want to say is that we have our District 1 website is up. All the contact information is there. I encourage everybody to sign up for our newsletter, and don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have an issue with the county, or that maybe just somebody in the local level can help get you connected to whoever should be helping you get the services that you need. So thank you for letting me be here today, and let's keep this conversation going so that you get the services and the representation that you need, and whether that's from your township supervisors or from those of us at the county all the way up to the top, we'll do the best we can to serve you the best we can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I understand we also have a couple of representatives from the County Attorney's Office. Correct. Chris Tolbert and Rich Alteri. Would you like to make some comments for us? Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having us here today. My name is Chris Tolbert. I'm the Executive Officer in the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. Thank you for the invite here today. I know John Choi, our county attorney, wanted to be here, but he is teaching a class at Metro State this semester on Tuesday nights, so he was unable to attend because his students call. But I'm here today with Rich Alteri from the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. We're here in partnership because really our sheriff and our county attorney's office are really in great partnership right now. And we wanted to highlight a few things that our office has been working on. Rich is actually on loan or granted into our office. He's a Ramsey County Sheriff, but he's embedded in the Ramsey County Attorney's Office because of the great partnership that we have on with Sheriff Fletcher and Ramsey County Attorney John Choi. So we're going to highlight maybe just a few things that we're working on. I know Rich will talk about the crime or lack thereof of crime in White Bear Township, which is a good thing to say. But then we wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that are going on in the county and flag those things that County Attorney Choi wanted to highlight, as well as Sheriff Fletcher. So, Rich, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Sure. Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
So I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 23 years. I used to write reports back in the little room there. I was the SRO for Bel Air School. I've eaten a lot of lunches at Bel Air Park with students who maybe needed a little extra attention that day. Let's get out of the environment and go enjoy the lake. And so I do love White Bear Township. I think my wife and I, maybe we should have bought the house on Buffalo Street that we looked at years ago. But I am in St. Paul, and I'm missing my commissioner at the moment. We're -1, so I live in the Midway. So, like Chris said, Sheriff Fletcher and County Attorney John Choi have collaborated on a few things over the last few years. They're both big thinkers. All right, I'm sorry. They both have big ideas, and I've been lucky enough to work at the crossroads of a couple of them. One is auto theft and carjacking. So in 2021, we put together a team. Carjacking was on the rise. You may have seen in the news, in your neighborhoods possibly, although I looked at the stats for White Bear Township, and it was really nice to see how little crime there was. So it's an awesome place to live. But Sheriff Fletcher put together the carjacking and auto theft team, and I was in on the ground floor of that in 2021. We thought we were going to get a break after the state fair, and then next thing I know, we're launching a big initiative. So the fundamentals of that, which the county attorney got in on and assisted with, were to apprehend offenders, find out what their families need for help, start trying to assist and get services that are needed, and then cooperate with the county attorney's office to build good cases and get convictions where needed. So some juveniles are diverted into helpful programs. Some are high risk, high need families, and continue with criminal activity, and they are helped through the criminal justice system. So the work we've done is you're getting a handout. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Sorry to make you do that. Carjacking and auto theft have reduced in Ramsey County tremendously. There's a slide in there that shows a national story where we received attention. St. Paul, compared with major metros all across the country, was the highest in reduction. So, and at the very top, you'll see a very long blue line of Rochester, New York. That's where I moved from to here. So I think I made a good move, all right? Not quite to Mayberry Township, but a pretty darn good move. So the CAT team is out there hitting it hard. We've reduced auto theft and assisted other agencies, and the cooperation with the county attorney's office has been fundamental in that. The other area where we also cooperate is non-fatal shooting investigations. We learned from Denver with their tremendous work in non-fatal shootings that if you attack a case just like a homicide, if it's a non-fatal shooting where someone is struck with a bullet but they're not killed, it's not a homicide, but you put the same resources into that case as you would a homicide, you can solve that case. And St. Paul Police Department has the majority of those cases. They have increased their clearance rate tremendously by putting together a specific non-fatal shooting team. So they're doing awesome work. The sheriff's office at the same time put together a non-fatal shooting team. And since there are no actual non-fatal shootings in the contract cities at this point, we're able to focus on worrisome people who are showing potential. Guns posted on social media, guns flaunted on the train. Anybody who's a potential threat, we can take a look hard at that and try to stop shootings before they're shootings. We're trying to stop homicides by stopping shootings. Well, now let's try to just stop gun violence before it even becomes a shooting. So there's my 2 cents. I'll leave some cards also. If anybody needs to get in touch, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you, Rich. And just to kind of cap that off, a lot of this work and those numbers, you can see they're pretty, those charts I think are pretty powerful. That's because of partnership. And I think as local government officials, you know how important partnerships are or how detrimental the lack of partnerships can be. And I will say the partnership between the sheriff's office and the county attorney's office is one of the best that's been in my career, and that's part of the reason we're working on this crime. And the last thing I just want to flag, there's a relatively new law in the state of Minnesota called the Minnesota Extreme Risk Protection Order. And hopefully this is not something that nobody in here has to deal with, but we're trying to get this information out here because it's really important, especially in today's day and age. And I have found that oftentimes when you're a local elected official or an involved community member, you hear things and maybe 6 months or 2 years down the road, you're like, oh, someone told me about that. Let me make that connection. So I'm just flagging that for you. But the Minnesota Extreme Risk Protection Order is a law that allows a court based on petition by a law enforcement agency or a family member to confiscate guns for a certain period of time. And that's for the purpose of preventing potential acts of violence, suicide, domestic abuse, or mass shootings. And this has been happening in Minnesota for a while. Family members will contact our agency. We have a specific attorney that works on this. They have a family member who is very suicidal, who might have a lot of firearms. The family will petition the court to do a temporary confiscation of those guns. Eventually, the person can get them back if they show the cause, but it's really to protect against suicide and, of course, mass shootings or school shootings or things like that. But it's a very limited gun control law. for a very limited circumstance. But if you know someone or if you know of that, contact law enforcement, contact our office. We have a county attorney named Dawn Bask who is our specialist on it. But we just wanted to flag that for people because it's a new law that could be very useful and save lives. So that's the update from the county attorney's office. Thank you for the opportunity. And I don't know if you guys are doing questions or anything, but I know both Rich and I would be happy to answer them.
We have any from residents? Oh, we got one in the back there.
Yeah, hi, Rick Day, 1226 Palm Lane. The grant that established the CAT teams, is that going to be able to continue?
That is yet to be seen. We sure hope so. We are absolutely continuing to communicate with those grant providers and give all our latest stats. And you may even know more about that, Chris.
Yeah, the grant was allocated to the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office. I believe it was an $800,000 grant in 2021 by the Department. It was a Department of Justice grant. A lot of it has been used to pay for the work that we've been doing. Some of it is still there. Obviously, with what's going on in the federal government right now, we're all on edge about every grant. The county attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and of course Ramsey County receives a substantial amount of important money for, paying for police officers, paying for county attorneys, paying for our public safety folks. But I think anyone who watches the news knows we're not sure what's going to happen tomorrow with the current federal administration. So we're watching it, but we're hoping so, and we think it's a very beneficial grant. And if you don't believe me, look at the numbers.
Anybody else?
Thank you, guys.
For having us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, that brings us to the meat of tonight's meeting, and that's to review the preliminary tax levy. And the town finance officer, Tom Kelly, will do that presentation. It's all yours, Tom.
Thank you, Bob. First of all, before we get into the tax levy, we do want to talk about Heather, our Senator Gustafson mentioned us receiving some funds from the state, and we want to thank Senator Heather Gustafson for working to help the township get $7 million from the state surplus last year or a couple of years ago. And the only real restriction on it is that it needs to be used for infrastructure improvements. And we did receive the funds in July of 2024. And, like I said, the only restriction is that it needs to be used on infrastructure projects, which was the intent. We were able, as I said, we got the money in July. We've had it invested as we try to figure out what to do with the money. The town board just did approve a funding plan for that money where we're going to spend 100% of the interest earned each year plus an amount equal to 50% of the interest of the principal to buy down the bonds that we've been issuing to fund these infrastructure projects. And what that basically means, if we earn, let's just say, $100,000 of interest in a given year, we would use that $100,000 plus another $50,000 of the $7 million that we received for a total of $150,000. That would be then reduce the bond issue that we would have. The plan is by lowering the bonds, the amount of bonds that we'd issue, it would then reduce the property tax levy that we have to get approved to pay back those bonds. So again, using the example of the 150 that I just described, if the town had projects where we needed to issue $2,150,000 in bonds, we'd only issue $2 million in bonds. Basically, over a 10-year period, which is what we generally issue those bonds, it would save about $15,000 less that we'd have to levy for in principal, and then approximately $4,000 to $5,000 in interest costs each year. So we'd be levying about $20,000 less each year in tax levy. So you'd not get away from the debt levy completely, but at least it would be reduced from what we've been doing in the past. With that, I'll go on to the 2026 preliminary tax levy presentation. And yes. Can I ask a question? Sure.
Actually, I thought we were going to try to get through the presentation.
No, we can do the.
Okay.
Cheryl Smith, 5713 Jenny Lane. So on that proposal that you had just mentioned, where it was 100% of interest and 50%, were there was another, and I haven't seen the minutes posted online, about monies being used for any assessments?
We're currently not going to use it for any of the assessments. The problem we have with using it on the assessments, in order to issue the bonds, we have to assess at least 20% of the project costs. Mm-hmm. And with what our assessments have been the last few years, we're bumping up against that 20%. And so we can't really use it to reduce the assessments. And by reducing the assessments, we're only affecting the people that are in the project area, where by putting it towards reducing the bonds that we issue, it affects everybody in the township.
Mm-hmm. So you're not going to look at that as a case-by-case basis?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. As always, I always start off by announcing the 3 awards that we do receive from the Government Finance Officers Association. And the white one there is on the town's popular report that we put out each fall that summarizes our audit report. We've received that award 9 times. The middle one there is for our budget document. We received that for the 23rd time. And then the far end one is for our actual audit report, which we've received 29 times. The township is only one of 12 governments in Minnesota to receive all 3 of the awards from the GFOA. Yes, sir.
Ron Jen, 5655 Portland Avenue. Just one question by your example. You've had those funds now for a little while. What type of revenue are you seeing on the $7 million, let's say monthly? And then second part of that question, and I can hand the microphone back to Pat, is when you're talking about the additional 50% investment, are you talking about pulling that from the $7 million fund so then that will dwindle, or are you talking about subsidizing that in other ways?
Yeah, we got the money in about July. With the investments that we can invest in, because we're restricted by the state statute, we are getting we invested it anywhere between 4 to 5%. And so we're getting, for 2024, we got about 200,000, a little bit more than 200,000 in interest earnings on it. once we get, now that we've got it and we'll have it for the full year, we'll, basically double that except we'll be pulling down some of the principal. And yes, the 50% would be drawn from the 7 million. The town already somewhat supplements the project costs because there's water, sewer, storm work that usually goes into that comes from other town funds that pays for that. And then depending on what we can assess, we sometimes have to supplement the project costs because the assessments aren't totally covering those costs.
So do you have a sense of what the duration might look like for that $7 million?
We ran out a projection quickly last week, and we ran it over 30 years, and it was still doing just fine. So it'll last us a while. It'll get us through this wave of road improvements. We're on year 7, I think, of our road projects, or 6, and we had them projected out for 10 years. So it'll get us through the next 4 years, if you will, and then we'll still have plenty of funds for when we have to start it all over again. And because this time, and Larry can correct me if I'm wrong, but this time a lot of the roads we were able to do mills and overlays. You can only do those so long, and then you've got to come in and do full reconstruction, which is going to be much more costly and so forth. And so we'll still have plenty of those funds left to help finance those projects into the future. Does that answer your questions?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, going on to the 2026 preliminary levy. You've all heard this before, but this is our worst case scenario. We don't know a lot of the costs because nobody's started their budgets, and we contract with other communities for so many services and stuff. So we just don't know what our expenditures are going to be. So we use conservative revenue estimates and then worst case expenditure. Again, once the levy is set tonight, we can always lower the levy during our budget process, but we cannot exceed whatever is approved tonight. The final budget and levy will be presented at our budget meeting on December 1st, which is a Monday night this year, and it'll be held here. And that was voted on at last year's budget meeting. As I said, this is our worst case scenario. This chart shows the red is what the preliminary levies have been in the past, and then the yellow is what we've actually ended up with a final levy, and that your property taxes are on. For example, 2025, we had a preliminary levy of just over $6,535,000. We ended up with a final levy just over $6,212,000. So we hope that'll be the case again this year for 2026, and we think it will be with what we have proposed. Right now, as it stands, we have a proposed preliminary property tax levy of $7,307,500. That is an 11.82% increase from the 2025 preliminary levy, and it's really based on the 2023 and 2024 actual revenues and expenditures, plus some inflationary increases, and then we do have some other increases. The operational levy, which funds our general fund, is only a 9.2% above last year's preliminary levy, And the rest of it is in our debt service, which is increasing because we're still doing road projects. Some of the changes that we did have to make that are outside of the inflationary and not based on previous results is our rental licenses and animal licenses are collected in even years. So they'll be collected in 2026. They're 2-year licenses, and that generates about $5,650. We left our state and county aids at our 2025 amounts, which is $90,000. And then we left our fiscal disparities at $437,450, which is the same as it was in 2025. However, since we did increase our levy in 2025, things keep increasing in value, we should see an increase in our fiscal disparities. Wages are based on our union contract. We had a 3-year union contract that we signed last year, so 2026 will be the last year of that contract, and it calls for a 3.5% cost of living increase on January 1st. We increased the amount budgeted for public works summer help. One of the problems everybody is having is finding help, and we need that help to help patch streets and maintain our parks. And so we increased the budget for that, hoping we get some of the kids back that we've had in the past and can actually draw some new blood into the summer help pool. Our health insurance, again, we don't know what that'll do. We've typically seen about a 7% increase on our health insurance. To be safe, we plugged 15% in on our health insurance. And then the park improvements and seal coat budgets both were increased $25,000 to $400,000 for park improvements and $175,000 for seal coating. And those were based on our 10-year capital improvement plan. We'll see where that comes out as we go on. The sheriff's contract, we did increase that 16% for 2026. Again, we don't know what that will be. We have seen slightly higher increases in our sheriff's contract as they've been doing some shifting on the county budget, and we expect that to continue in 2026. So we plugged what we think is a high number there. Likewise, we did the same thing with our fire budget, where we increased that just over 12%. We did include the almost $185,000 for the debt service that city is trying to charge us on their new facility. And overall, the public safety area of our budget, which includes police, fire, and then code enforcement and building inspections, is increasing 9.23% for 2026 with what we have proposed. Next, as I said, we do have a debt levy. The debt levy for 2026 is estimated at $714,050. I say it's estimated because we do estimate issuing bonds in 2025 here for our 2025 road project. Because the amounts were similar to what we had in 2019 as far as construction cost estimates, I estimated similar to what we had when the first year of the 2019 improvement bond. So I did include an estimate of $224,572 for that bond issue. I'm hoping it's going to be lower than that, at least for 2026. And then, of course, we do still have the 2019 A and the 20A and the 21A bonds that we issued for our road construction. And those debt levies are going to be based on their current bond schedule. The town still does maintain a AA plus from Standards and Poor's, and then a AA1 from Moody's Investors. Both of those are one step below AAA for bond rating. So we are getting very good interest rates when we do go out in the market. With that, this is kind of a summary and a comparison of our preliminary levy. Again, it's being estimated at $7,307,500. And you can see that our operating levy, which pays for our general expenses, the general fund is being proposed at $6,156,000. The fiscal disparities, I left at $437,450. And then our now 4 bond issues, and you can see that the big change there is really that having that estimate for the 2025 bond issue. So if you take, and again, I left the town's tax capacity at what the county estimated it for 2025 at $21,667,877. With that proposed levy, it would give us a tax rate of 31.706, which compares to last year we had an estimate of 28.961 for the 2020-25. And what that basically means is if your property, if your home value remained the same for 2025 and 2026, you would see a township tax increase of about $10, between about $10 and about $22, and that's on homes valued at between $256,624 and $513,248. Again, as we do go through our budget process, we can lower the levy, but we cannot exceed whatever is approved tonight. And as always, this is our worst case scenario. And so with that, I will, what you're going to be asked is to approve a proposed 2026 preliminary property tax levy of $7,307,500. And with that, I will take any questions.
Got a mic if anybody needs to ask now a question.
Ron Denigan, 5655 Portland Avenue. Now, in your statement, you said if home values remain the same, what is the projected increase in home values across the township? Do you have that information?
The county assessor has not provided us with that yet. You should be getting your tax notices of what that value is. I live in Hennepin County, and I received mine last Saturday. This is the typical time of the year when they do send out those values. I haven't heard anybody say that they've received theirs yet, so Ramsey County might be a little bit behind. Last year, the median value home in the township and our overall tax capacity went up just under 5%. In the past, it's gone up almost double digits. So I'm not really sure. I'm going to guess for 2026, it's going to be similar to 2025, but until they send out those notices, they don't give us much information on it.
Depends on your house, because
Yeah,
mine's going up much more than that. So
yeah.
just curious if you had that information. Thank you.
Greg Hubinger, 5476 Bald Eagle Boulevard East. On slide 10, you indicate that the preliminary levy increase percentage is compared to the preliminary number for 2024. 25, sorry.
25.
Why don't you use the real number and use the actual for 2025?
I thought about that. The final levy versus the preliminary levy this year, the difference is about 17%. But I always struggle with, do you compare apples to apples, which would be preliminary to preliminary, or do you use final? I don't know.
It would definitely look worse because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
using a real number that's
Yeah. And I expect when we get, as we go through our budget process and we start getting all those numbers from the county, from the city, and our other contractors and so forth, I expect will be even lower than the 11, 10% we are preliminary to preliminary. I think we'll end up, in the single digits for levy increase. I mean, we typically try to get it down as low as we can. Our 2025 tax rate is now the second lowest in Ramsey County compared to all the other cities. Even with this proposed levy, comparing it to everybody's proposed levies last year, we'd only be the sixth lowest for our tax rate. So I'm hoping we're going to come down considerably.
Can I ask a second question? I noticed on slide 13 that your estimated increase for law enforcement is 16%. And I know that we contract for services for Ramsey County for that. It's a contract. Has the board thought about a standard business practice and request proposals from the city of White Bear for that service?
Probably not from White Bear, but at least not right now with the dispute with the fire contract. But we have in the past looked at White Bear. We did a few years ago, and they weren't any cheaper. And in fact, we do the city of Gem Lake financials for them. They contract with us for that services, and so I know their budget, and they do contract both police and fire with White Bear Lake, and their police budget has been going up higher than the sheriff's contract. It doesn't mean ours would, but I'm guessing it would based on that.
Left side of the room? Anybody?
Mike DeMars, 5474 Peterson. My first question is slide 10. It has the increase of 11.82% from last year. That seems steep, just as a purely percentage number. How does that compare with other, maybe not towns but cities, around the area? Is that a pretty standard increase? Are other cities seeing that same increase?
Well, because we're a township, we have to have this approved tonight. Other cities haven't even started their 2026 budget process yet. We, going from last year's final, when we had our budget meeting in December, and with everybody else at that time doing their final budgets and tax levies, we were one of the lower communities for a tax levy increase. A lot of the cities around us were actually seeing, for whatever reason, double-digit property tax increases. And I don't know what was driving that for them, that it wasn't doing it for us. So we have typically been one of the lower ones. For years, we were always the second lowest tax rate in the county, which is based on our levy and our values. For a while, with issuing the debt and so forth, we jumped up to fourth and fifth lowest in the county. And then last year, because like I said, some of these other communities were seeing big double-digit increases based on those levy amounts, we actually dropped back down to second lowest in the county.
I guess on that same vein, so on slide 15, it mentions a debt levy of almost $750,000, and that's an increase of over $250,000. Can you speak a little bit more on what the purpose of the debt levy is?
Sure. Basically, what the town does when we have road projects, depending on the size of the road project for that year, we will issue what they call 429 bonds, which are special assessment bonds, meaning that we will assess the property owners at least 20% of project costs for the affected properties. Then there are other parts of that debt that we'll issue, because we're only assessing, as I said, we're assessing right around 25% of the project costs in the past. The town has to make up the rest of that. And so when we issue the debt, we have to provide funding sources, and our funding sources will be those special assessments. It'll be our water, our sewer, and our stormwater funds for those shares cost of the project. And then there'll be another portion of the towns that the town is picking up that we actually have to have a property tax levy for. And that is what we're going to use the infrastructure fund to help reduce that portion of the levy.
Hi, Brett Day again, 1226 Pondview Lane. You said that you have to do this vote tonight. Could you explain why that is? And would there be an opportunity? This seems like a lot of guesswork. Honestly, a lot of unknowns for sure. Why does the township have to do it tonight?
Simple question, simple answer. Because we're a township and the law says we have to. Yes, we have to have an annual meeting. Now, the residents of White Bear Township actually voted before I even started here, which I hate to say it, it's going on 36 years. They voted to have a second special meeting in the fall for adopting their budget. So we have a budget meeting that's going to be on December 1st because the residents elected to split those two things. Otherwise, tonight you would be actually adopting our 2026 budget and final levy tonight if we didn't have that special one in the fall. So we have to do this tonight, kind of set our high and worst case scenario levy. Then we can go during our budget process and lower it. And we actually have to send a preliminary levy to the county by the end of September, which they use to send out the property tax notices that you receive in the fall, telling you when the budget meeting is and all of that. And then from there, we can lower it even further to get to whatever we present at that budget meeting on December 1st.
Yes, statutorily, every township in Minnesota is required to meet on the second Tuesday of March to conduct this exact meeting. Very neat. There's a special statute that covers all townships.
Or that our senator wasn't here to maybe help with that, because this seems really, I'm on the board of an HOA in the township, and kind of doing it this way, we had to wait till the last minute to get our insurance policy.
Sure.
And it's like, had we tried to do it at this point, we would be way under, with no money coming in to do that. So I would just hope that the Board of Supervisors and our county commissioners would advocate for doing this at a later date. I imagine it would help all the townships.
It probably would. Any other questions?
Jim Lynn, 2642 Suzanne Circle. Just a quick question about the overall levy and capital expenditures that you may have figured into this. Is there any major ones besides the roads? And I see there's one for parks and the maintenance there, but is there any other kind of major capital expenditures?
I'm trying to remember for 2026 if we have anything major for public works equipment or not. Yeah, but I think there's smaller trucks.
Yeah, they are. They're not. They're snowplows. One is a 1 ton.
So, no, it's just, and there again, it's based on the 2025 to 2034 10-year capital improvement plan. As part of our budget process, we refine all the capital items that are in 26, and we'll actually add 2035 to our plan, but all of those can get refined. So if there's like pickup trucks or something that, they maybe don't need, or they estimated too high based on current pricing or something, or not enough, they can adjust all those, and we'll build that into our 2026 budget as we're doing that. But yeah, that plan can still, again, it's too early in the process to refine that and really know.
Ralph Tillma, 4294 Oakmead Lane. The term fiscal disparities is really mysterious to me, and I'm not sure what it is, but I think the state is handing over money because we can't pay enough taxes.
What?
Is that correct?
No. It's somewhat correct, but not correct. Fiscal disparities is a revenue sharing pool based on the 7 county metro areas commercial and industrial tax base. So every community in the 7 county metro area, based on their commercial and industrial taxes, contributes to the fiscal disparities pool. And then based on this convoluted formula, they then calculate out what your contribution back is. They created it, the fiscal disparities pool, in the early 70s based on the city of Bloomington developing kind of along the 494 corridor there. The communities in the North Metro were feeling like they were, I don't know, for lack of a better word, getting shorted on being able to attract commercial development. And so they created this fiscal disparities sharing pool. And like I say, it's based on your commercial values. The township pays into it. And when I say we pay into it, it's basically just calculated on the taxes. We don't really pay anything. But then we get money back. And because of the way the formula works, generally, if you increase your property taxes, you'll get more money the next year.
Makes perfect sense, right? No. Basically, it's saying we don't have a lot of industry base here, and other municipalities do. They're getting more tax money because they have businesses that can pay that, where we don't. We're putting the burden of the township on the backs of the residents, not commercial businesses.
They're trying to take it off of you by pulling taxes from other commercial development that is in other communities. So we're getting money from, say, the city of Bloomington's commercial buildings to lower your property taxes.
So we're a net gainer.
We're a net gainer.
Yeah. Well, that's generous. They didn't have to do that. Who put the pressure on the state to do something?
The gentleman's name, and it's referred to, to be honest with you, I'm guessing he is no longer alive, but I don't know that for a fact. But the author of the bill was a Charlie Weaver, and he was from Brooklyn Park. Or he represented that area, I should say. I don't know that he was from.
Must have had a prime time trying to explain that to the House to get them to go along with that. Anybody else?
Tis Taylor, 5211 Bald Eagle Boulevard. If you addressed this already, my apologies, but it says here that the levy can't exceed the preliminary levy. But in the past, it says the property tax can go down. In the past, has it gone down? And what's the probability of that going down from your preliminary budget? And by how much, or what's the amounts the others have reduced, if so?
Yeah. In the past, it typically has gone down. Let me see if I can find that chart real quick. Got to be getting close. There it is. This chart, the red bar is our preliminary levies, starting in 2014, I believe, and going through 2025. And the yellow bar is what our final levy was. So you can see that it typically has gone down. Again, as we start to learn some of these other costs, what our sheriff's contract is actually going to go up, what our fire budget's going to go up, elections, some of the other things that we contract out for. Likewise, our health insurance. Hopefully, we can bring this levy down. One of the big things we don't know is with the road projects and issuing bonds for it. Since we haven't issued the bonds, we don't know what the payment schedule is going to be like. So we don't know what that levy is going to be for the 2025 bond, and I'm projecting that one off of a previous one. And hopefully it'll be lower, at least for 2026. So again, it is our worst case scenario, and we're hoping, like in the past, we can bring that down.
Anybody else?
That I wanted to ask before. Mike DeMars again, 5474 Peterson. I noticed, I think last year the sheriff's contract was also up, or we had to re-up it. Do we ever consider doing multi-year contracts to maybe lock in a better price, or not? And that wouldn't even just apply to the sheriff's contract, maybe any contracts that we do on a yearly basis.
I will turn that one over to Pat, who actually gets to go to the sheriff contract meetings every month. And they are the ones that actually discuss the sheriff's budget and what everybody will pay.
And Tara could chime in on this one too. We have been talking about multi-years, but right now the plan is single year, at least for this year. After that, we are in discussions about multi-year. But other contracts, yeah. I mean, we just 3 years ago went out for RFP on our garbage hauler. And that hadn't been done in 20 years. I mean, those are examples of, yeah, we are trying to lock in better rates up front, for sure. Tara, has there been any discussion about that at the board level, or?
Not yet, as far as changing from single year to multi-year.
Okay.
What's the holdup? Is it the police union, or is it something else?
It's just a matter of process, right?
Mm.
As far as what's that.
I don't think it has anything to do with labor.
I will say that one of the things, though, that has, from my understanding, from both the sheriff's office.
That's okay. My bad.
From my understanding from both the sheriff's office and from the contract cities is that there has been a pretty favorable understanding of, in order to recruit, retain our law officers and the very important work that they do and the excellent services they've been given. In this labor market, it also includes our local law enforcement and our folks across the river and other surrounding counties. So it's a competitive market. And they're doing a great job, and so that's part of the marketing, the labor market of our negotiations with them, is to make sure that we're honoring the work that they do and can recruit and retain officers to do that fine work. So that's part of the increases you're seeing.
And it's getting better for them. They're starting to recruit more employees. So. Anybody else?
So I just have one more question from that chart that you had put up that it was hard to read, but it looked like from a 10-year gap, the increases have almost doubled in price. So, and is that like inflationary, or what do you attribute that to?
Mainly inflationary. We have implemented a couple of different financing programs, if you will, like our capital equipment fund we started, where we've been, based on the equipment that we own, we charge back to the departments that use that equipment based on the depreciation of the equipment. The goal was to set that fee up at 105% of the depreciation costs. And when we started out with that, we were only plugging into the budget about 25%, and we've been slowly ramping that up. Now in 2024, we finally got it to 100%, and then last year we got it to the 105 that we're trying to project. And the idea behind that was when I first started, they would issue what they called equipment certificates, which were 3-year, for lack of a better word, a 3-year loan that we'd then have to levy taxes for, and we'd always have to get resident approval to issue the tax or the equipment certificates. By implementing this equipment rental fee in the capital equipment fund, we can budget a set amount each year, set that money aside, and then when we need to replace the equipment, we have the funds available to buy it and not affect the levy. Because, and Dale can chime in on this one, but the big plow trucks now cost us almost $500,000. Now, we don't need one to buy one of those every year, obviously, but if we were to budget based on that equipment need every year that we need to budget for that big plow truck, all of a sudden you got $500,000 expenditure into your budget that you didn't plan on. This way we set aside, $5,000 or whatever that depreciation on that truck is each year, and our levy stays fairly flat for those equipment. But that's why some of those increases were as large as they were.
So those are actual equipment purchases, not rental?
No, they're actual equipment purchases. Some of the equipment, it's just too hard to rent. We do rent some equipment for like, yeah, yeah.
Let's probably find out the rental if you're going to use it year round. Do we have a street sweeper? We do, but it's an older sweeper. We contract. We've had it for years. It's 20-some years old. We contract spring and fall street sweeping. So that's one way to reduce equipment costs.
Tom, getting back to Kiz's kind of baseline question, I mean, wouldn't street projects have an impact on that levy?
The street projects will have, obviously, I mean, we went for years
not doing any
without having a debt levy. And then in 2019 was our first bond issue for the street projects. So 2020 would have been the first year of restarting up a debt levy. And those, as you could see on the one chart there, they're over 100, 200,000 each year that goes towards those. Again, getting the $7 million from the state hopefully will help bring those costs down in the future, but still need to replace the streets.
Anybody else? Once, twice, sold.
I'll get out of your way.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. These questions seem to get harder and harder every year, but Tom has the answers. Okay, back to the agenda. The item number 8 on the agenda is to announce the location.
You gotta have a motion to approve that. We need to approve.
Oh, that's number 8.
Yeah, you need to approve the levy.
Okay, all right.
It's up on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault. Okay, so we do need a motion to approve the levy, and that levy is set at 7 million. Is that a question, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna move to approve the preliminary tax levy of $7,377.50.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Have a second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all of those in favor of accepting the proposed levy, tax levy, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, now we can announce the location, date, time of the special town board budget meeting. And that's what Tom was referring to earlier. And that date is December 1st. It's a Monday. December 1st, 2025 at 7 o'clock at this location. What the heck did we do here?
Yep, that's all you got to do is announce that.
Yeah.
And then.
Okay, this is all part of the
And then-
notice. Okay.
Now you got to.
And then there's a backup to that. So if the December 1st doesn't work, then we have a bad weather day to have that meeting. And that is going to be December 3rd, 2025 at 7 o'clock, again at this location. Okay, now, and next item on the agenda then is to set the time and location for the next annual meeting, this meeting, and that has to be set by a vote from the floor. So we need a motion to set the time and location for the 2026 annual meeting. It's suggested that we make that at Heritage Hall, and that would be March 10th, 2026, at this location. And it might be located at the Otter Lake Elementary School, and that'll be notified at the appropriate time. So we need a motion to set that meeting date. Again, okay, is there a second? Motion's made and seconded, so we'll be voting to have the next annual meeting Tuesday, March 10th, 7 o'clock, this location. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Last item on the agenda is for any other business. Is there any other business? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Kermis.